I think it's, right now it's more like a circle. You know, it's like all throughout history and communities they've talked about what is the leadership and all this, what's the structure and how do you make decisions and all those practical things. And I think probably the one type of, whatever you want to call it, kind of governorship or leadership or whatever, that everyone resonates the most with is consensus. You know, where everybody's nodding, like you just were nodding, where everybody is nodding. Except in communities throughout history, they find that that's most difficult because there's dissenting opinions. They may have like 12, 13 yeses and one no, and they don't have consensus. So they find it very slow, almost like a grinding, nothing gets done. That's the typical experience. But actually for us, because we've practiced this inner listening and we've used no people-pleasing, no private thoughts, there's such full extension of communication and such clarity that it's very, very, very common for a group of us to just come and find ourselves all hearing the same thing and all nodding. It's just like a given. It's not something that we have to hash it through. We don't ever take a vote. You know, that's not even an option for us. It's felt. It's like a shared experience. So I think I would say it's more like a circle right now, where it's just a circle of nodding heads is the predominant experience. Yeah, and also because the guidance, you know, when you say we hear the same guidance too, and that's like, for example, if there's a group that are deciding on something together, but some of us are spread out and traveling around the United States now. Some are in Utah, some are in Hawaii, some are in Mexico. It's not like with Jesus and the apostles, they basically lived together and traveled together for 3 years. So they kind of had the decisions that would affect them. I would say back then it was more, you know, it would come directly through Jesus, and sometimes he would say, "We go," and they basically, the steward kicked into action and they packed up the donkeys and whatever and they moved. With us too, it's being so branched out in different centers in different parts of the world. You know, again, there's a joining, there's a deep level of communication, but like Kirsten's saying, really there's a deep, deep trust underneath, a very, very strong trust. And so oftentimes you could just say that messengers just go and they flow and they flow and they flow in their joy and their love and their happiness, and then there can be points along the way where there'll be like, like a question will arise, or perhaps even a doubt, and then there's a joining. But now through internet and technology it's quite easy. You know, we don't need the bodies all, like St. Francis and the Franciscans, they don't all have to be together. There's whenever there's that point of a question or a doubt, then you can link up and join with somebody on Skype. Most often, anytime there's somebody on Skype, doesn't matter what time zone they're in. I see Sarah nodding. You know, it's very common, these experiences, for us and for those who live with us, to just go, I need to talk to somebody, go on Skype. Okay, who's on green? Okay, there it is, oh yeah, there. And through the joining, it's always through the joining, the praying together, you know, the connecting, that the answers are given, everything is made clear. So we have a huge emphasis on joining, an absolute huge emphasis on communication. When we're not just in prayer and in silence communing, we are communicating, and it really keeps the pipe open. Seems like keeping the communication going. And also the idea that the family that prays together stays together, not that stays together in body, but stays joined in mind, in harmony. You know, that we really believe that. You know, this is a lot of prayer, a lot of focus on prayer too. Yeah, it takes it off of personal responsibility and throws it back on the Holy Spirit. It's always throwing it back to the Holy Spirit. Guide me, lead me. It's a workbook lesson. I will step back and let Him lead the way. Wow, that covers it all right there. So it's a very given life. We're just receiving instructions, receiving guidance, and letting it move through us very naturally. So it's oftentimes there's no words necessary in the prayer. It's just the puppet is getting moved and spoken through and so forth. And it's a very easy, gentle life that way, because it's like going with the current instead of trying to go against the current. It's really, truly going with the current. And I had a friend of mine, Nashin, he's our friend in China, he's the first man who brought A Course in Miracles to China back in 2003, and he likes to write articles, and one time he was going over our way of living and how we live and practice, and he's the first one that kind of equated, he said, your two practical guidelines of no people-pleasing and no private thoughts, the way you live in everyday life, he connected that with something from the Course, which nobody had quite done in such a direct way. And what he connected it to was the introduction of A Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. He said, your two guidelines are that in practice. And I thought, oh, I've never thought of it that way. It was an interesting connection. Because we're very much into practicalities, you know, we're not into just a bunch of high theologies.